Hi and welcome back to engVid with me, Benjamin. Now I'm sure you have noticed the rise in people using laptops in coffee shops. Some people like it, some people don't. Sometimes there are signs saying please don't, or after a certain hour, maybe it's a no laptop zone. But the reality is that people are working from home a lot more than they used to. We're starting to get co-working spaces popping up in every city around the world. I've got a friend who runs one in Mallorca. I've got a friend who runs one in Saudi Arabia. So they are there. So this video is looking a little bit at why that is the case, why people are starting to move away from a job-focused, location-specific job and finding other ways of doing things. And then in the second half of the lesson, we're going to look at phrases to use in a conversation if you were looking to discuss your working conditions. Okay, so this is not a lesson in anthropology, social anthropology. So when I say Generation Y, some of you may refer to it as Generation Z or millennials. I'm basically speaking about young people now, people in their sort of 20s and 30s, because there is a shift happening. Well, how is this group of people different to what came before it, to the generation that preceded it? Well, loosely speaking, they are tech savvy. Tech, short for technologically savvy, from the French word savoir, to know. Yeah, these people know how to work computers, how to rustle up a website in a matter of minutes, knowing how to use Instagram, how to use all the other social media platforms. Do you know how to use them? Some of them I do, some of them I don't. How else are they different? Well, there has been a rise in people taking an interest in sort of social activism, people becoming ecologically and ethically aware. So ecology is to do with nature, the environment. If we are ecologically aware, we are conscious of the environment and make informed decisions as consumers. Ethically aware, to do with ethics, like a code of, your own moral compass, how you decide whether something is right or wrong, and how you impact on the world. The Extinction Rebellion has been popular around the world. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, but it has been popular mainly with young people. How else have young people changed? Well, it's difficult to give generalizations, and this video mainly is a generalization about young people. But I think it's fair to say that people are becoming, well, certainly men are becoming more family orientated. Women have always got this right. We're only cottoning on a little bit late, but trying to make sure that we're there for bath time and becoming more involved in family life. Financially, however, the picture is not so rosy. The first generation in recorded history that is going to be worse, should be an off here, worse off than the one preceding it. So typically this generation, young generation, finding it hard to get onto the housing ladder to buy that first home, particularly in capital cities where most of the young want to be because of how expensive accommodation can be in those capital cities. Priorities. Well, people aren't looking for an hour-and-a-half commute each way, standing like a sardine in a tin There's the Anglo-Saxon work ethic of work. Although it's still going to be there, and certainly USA has a really strong reputation for this, but millennials, Generation Y, are looking for more of a home-life balance, for a constructive and nice working environment, a place where lighting has been chosen to make one feel relaxed. And they would argue that productivity is going to be improved in such an environment. So companies such as Google have invested huge amounts of money in making sure that their staff are working at their optimum. Less of a hierarchy, more of an equal standing with their fellow colleagues. Emotional intelligence is being valued. Workers are being encouraged not just to grin and bear it, i.e., if there's a problem, you just carry on, but people are being encouraged to talk about their problems. And we have this whole rise in awareness about mental health issues. So the modern workforce is becoming, or the modern workplace is becoming employee-centric. So an employee is someone who works at a company, and centric means that it revolves around that point. So before, jobs revolved around the customer. The customer was king. Whatever the customer wanted, the customer got. Now, it's employee-centric. So the most important person is the employee. That they are protected, that they have their rights, etc. And people are looking to do some teleworking with flexi time. So trying to have a little bit of time working from home, or trying to have some sort of negotiation on when the work is done. Obviously, there are going to be those industries that this is just entirely impractical for. For example, teaching. Yeah, the teachers, generally speaking, at the moment, have to be in schools to deliver the lessons. There are some that would say that in the future, students are going to be taught via iPads at home, but that's a long way from being reality at the moment, and I'm not sure it would be any better. So we're going to move on now to look at a kind of conversation that Generation Y workers are looking to have with their employers. So, as I mentioned, this kind of conversation with an employer wouldn't be relevant for all of you watching this video, but I've taught in businesses where they do offer flexi time and where employees are offered the option of working one day a week at home. So even if this isn't a relevant conversation for you to be having, there may still be some interesting grammatical structures and things to look out for in the English. Okay, so first of all, we are proposing to have a conversation about working arrangements with the employer. Is there any chance we could have a word about something today? So that is deliberately vague language, because if I say what I want straight away, they might not want to talk about that. So the first thing you are looking to do is actually find a place and a time to have a serious conversation about this. And then when the actual meeting comes and you're asked to explain what it is that you're looking to discuss, there's a couple of issues about my schedule that I wanted to discuss. Schedule is quite a North American word. We don't use it that often in British English. We would probably say well, I'm a teacher, I'm quite used to saying timetable. I'm not quite sure what is used outside of that. Continuing, I've just been thinking that it could work really well to have 1 day a week working from home. Working from home. I have just been. So it's quite indirect with the tenses that are being used. Yeah, it's not saying, I want this now. Yeah, it's distancing the wanting by putting it in the past tense. I've just been thinking that it could work really well to have 1 day a week working from home. Now the reasons. My weekly meetings, so the meetings that happen every week, tend to be. So we don't come across this word all that often. So if something tends to happen, then that is the kind of the likelihood, what normally happens. My meetings tend to be scheduled Monday through to Thursday, which means that I would be able to do my normal work from home. I would be able. As you are aware, I have a difficult commute, using commute here as a noun, and I feel that that time would be better spent. And you could continue doing some research or some phone calls or whatever it is. It looks sort of unnatural that we have two that's next to each other. But if we look at what's being said, yeah, I feel that. What do you feel? Well, I feel that time, so the time spent on the commute, could be better spent. I'm not saying this is the conversation that you have to have. I'm just throwing it out there as an example. So we've gone through some ideas about sort of teleworking and the shift in the paradigm shift in how people want to experience things at work. What do you think? Are you someone who likes to work from home, or do you like knowing where you're going to work, going to the same place each day? Let's have a conversation about it in the comments below. There's now the opportunity to do a quiz where you can test your understanding of what I've been talking about. And if these kind of videos have been of interest to you, then do make sure you're a subscriber to my channel, because there's loads of business English videos on there and coming on to the channel. Thanks for watching, and stay safe in those coffee shops. Bye.